workers' compensation law, and also discuss what you as the member may be able to do to help us improve the outcomes. Also, at the end, I will be giving you an update on the change the Workers' Compensation Board has made in regards to prescription medications. So I just wanted to give you a quick update on that, and then we should have time for a Q&A at the end. All right, so let's go dive right into our first scenario. We'll call this one the mystery of the unwitnessed accident. Yeah, I decided to go with this scenario because we do get a lot of questions and concerns regarding accidents that no one witnessed. So in this case here, we have Rita, who is a 62-year-old office clerk that reported she tripped and fell in an unlit stairway while carrying 2 banker boxes of files to the basement storage area. No one witnessed the fall, and Rita did not actually report the claim until 1 week later, which happened to be right after she was written up for frequently being late. So this is a scenario that does mirror some actual claims we've had. Some of you, parts of this may sound familiar. So let's break this down a little bit. So first, let's discuss what we call the red flags. And again, those are just possible concerns on a claim. It doesn't necessarily mean a claim won't be accepted or compensable, but it just means something that we just want to look at a little bit further, kind of kick the tires, if you will. So the first, obviously, we have an unwitnessed accident. So, always can be concerning because, you have no one to verify what happened. Another is the delayed reporting. It was over a week after the accident allegedly happened, and the employee reported it. Then, something that really stands out on this one, it was only reported after the employee was being disciplined. So, that raises a red flag for us. And also, as the claims department, we work hand in hand with risk management. One of the red flags we would have also is not so much with the claimant, but just wanting to make sure there aren't any safety concerns. As you noted, the accident happened in an unlit stairway going to the basement with someone carrying 2 banker boxes at once. So let's take a look at these and break down the red flags. And this will also give me an opportunity to give you some perspective from the Workers' Compensation Board, and that just so you know, the workers' comp laws can be broadly interpreted, and that's really meant to provide a safety net for injured workers, because the goal of workers' comp is if someone got injured at work, they want to make sure they receive the benefits they are entitled to. So first off, we have the unwitnessed accident. So in workers' comp, there is a presumption that an accident happened unless it can be otherwise rebutted. So in this case, it was unwitnessed, and the injured worker, Rita, said she got hurt from the accident. So with a supporting medical report, so if she went, fell down the stairs, goes to a doctor, says she fell down the stairs and hurt her back, that would be enough normally to establish a claim, unless we can refute or rebut any of that. So some of the things we could use to refute or rebut an unwitnessed accident would be if we had recorded footage of the alleged accident. So sometimes there's cameras in the stairwells, or on some of our buses, there's cameras there, and we may ask to review that footage. We have schools with cameras in them that we've used a video from those to break down, the person's accident to see if they fell, or if they anything happened at all, or if it looked like they staged their fall. So that can help us refute that presumption. Also, when the injuries or the diagnosis doesn't match the mechanics of the accident. So that's saying, the claimant said they were lifting, but the type of injury they had would only occur with other mechanics or mechanism of injury. So sometimes we can use that to argue that there's no way they had these injuries from what they claimed, because it wasn't physically possible for the body to be injured in that way. Also, they're not working in that specific area or at the time of the accident. So, we've had some of those where we've had people say they slipped and fell at work, and then we go back and the employer verified they never actually worked that day. So that's something that we can use to help rebut or refute the unwitnessed accident. And we've had a specific case, I remember, that when there's no signs of the physical elements from the fall. We had someone that claimed they fell down a wet staircase outside because it was raining and snowing over the last day or two, and and so it was wet and slippery. But when she came inside, her jacket, pants, and everything were totally dry. So, we took statements and we were able to help use that to help refute that unwitnessed accident presumption. So another red flag that we had in this was the delayed reporting. In workers' comp, the injured worker has 30 days and actually up to 2 years to report an accident. This clock starts once the claimant is aware the injury is work-related. So usually with specific accidents like trip and falls, that's pretty pinpointed that the employee understands that's a work-related injury. We do get some where something could happen over time, and they go to their doctor, have general complaints, and then don't realize until a year later that when they talk to the doctor about their job, and the doctor may say that's actually probably related to work, that's when their clock starts ticking. So so the employee does have to understand that it would be something that could be related to work. So that's 30 days, but they do have up to 2 years before it gets time barred. Also, if we do raise notice, so if we decide that we have a concern on a claim and we raise notice that the claimant reported it late, we have to prove that we have prejudice against us by the delayed reporting. So some of those examples would be scene investigation. So, it was snowing that day they fell, they didn't report it for 2 weeks later. We don't have the opportunity necessarily to confirm the condition of the area they fell in. So we would have to show that there was something material that we could not obtain by investigating the claim 2 weeks later, a month later, 6 weeks later on that. So the delayed reporting by itself can be very challenging for us to win a claim on if we are denying it. So the reported after being disciplined. So, we do see these claims. Sometimes they're referred to as a retaliation claim. And the way the board would view this, and when I say the board, I'm talking about the workers' comp board, is without proof of any intervening accident, it will be assumed that the accident happened regardless of the claimant being disciplined. So what that means is the board would say that it could be coincidental that the person had an injury, didn't report it, and then they were disciplined and then they reported it at that time. But I do have to say, though, that if there is a disciplinary action that has been taken, make sure you share that with us, because that can impact the claim. Because if we have other defenses as well, this could help us build a case to challenge the credibility of a claim. Because we've had success on retaliation type claims when we're able to piece together multiple arguments and not just the one of a delayed reporting. So, these facts are important that you share them with us. And then again, from a risk management perspective, we have safety concerns. We have proper lighting, the concern that we have stairs going to a basement, and we want to verify, one, were they really unlit? And two, if they were, what action we can do to get those resolved to prevent further injuries and just make a safe work environment. And then also the safety mindset. And what I mean in this is, we had a 62-year-old woman going down basement stairs carrying 2 banker boxes at the same time. So, we want to make sure that there's a work environment safety culture, and that ideally that person should be carrying 1 box at a time, or looking at other methods, and having a workplace to encourage those safer measures. All right, I'm taking a breath now. All right, so now let's also talk about member interventions. This is what I feel that something we can look at that you would be able to help us and the outcome of the claim. Now, this isn't, to be said that, we get this information and if it's a questionable claim, we automatically win. But any information that we have and these policies and suggestions that we're talking about today, again, it just gives us a more opportunity to better defend the claim and try to mitigate the damages when possible. So one of the biggest things that we really encourage is to make sure that you have established accident reporting standards, and if you do have them, to reinforce them, periodic reminders. Because just so you know, the employer, you can institute a policy saying that, for example, all claims have to report, or all accidents need to be reported within 48 hours. But the Workers' Compensation Board can override your policy, because by state law, under workers' comp, they're allowed 30 days and up to 2 years. But it's still important to have that policy. And if you do have the policy, having a signed handbook or policy acknowledgement is helpful, because then we can at least argue that the injured worker was aware of the policy for reporting a claim. And then third, one of the things we suggest is that you take documented disciplinary action if the employee does not follow your accident reporting policy. As an employer, in many ways, you have more control over the employee than we do on the workers' comp side. So a lot of this with reporting, especially the documented disciplinary action, may not help the instant claim where, because they can claim they did not know, but we have had success on later claims that the same claimant did not report a claim that was reported late, and we argued that they were aware of the procedures and policies, because not only were they documented, but we also, if we litigated the claim, they were made aware of the requirements. So we have had success on those. So it is important that we document those whenever possible. And just one caveat, of course, too, is always refer to your CBAs or labor agreements to ensure that your policy is within the terms of the contract. You may want to have your labor attorney review as well. But like I said, these are general suggestions. And then just on the safe work environment piece, again, regular safety training and reminders, proper lifting guidelines, how often do you see someone not using the proper mechanics? They're not using their legs to lift. Also, giving them tasks that they can giving them tasks that they can break up in multiple trips, or making sure they have enough time to produce that, to do the task. I know a lot of times it gets rushed. They're wearing many hats, so I get that, especially in this day and age. But what is there anything that you guys can do to think safety first, and also conduct regular safety inspections? Check the stairwells, the equipment. How's the condition of the flooring? Is that cord that's been plugged in across the wall, or across the room that everybody steps over, can we get that taken care of? How's the lighting? And, looking at, inspecting motorized equipment from vehicles to anything else. And two things: one, it creates a safe work environment, but also two, it prevents, I guess, the opportunity, you could say, for someone to try to make a claim on that. So there is a protection there. So before I go on to the next scenario, I'm just going to check with Kimberly. Were there any questions in the chat regarding this scenario?
No questions currently.
All right, my favorite kind of audience. All right, so let's go into the next one. Now, this is the case of the secret informant. So at the start of his first shift after coming back from a vacation, John, a public works employee, made a claim that he injured his back while lifting equipment into his truck. John reported the claim immediately and said it was witnessed by his coworker, Eleanor. So, this one here obviously doesn't have as many red flags as our last claim, but the first one that, jumps out at me is the injury occurred first thing after a vacation. I'm sure, we deal with many employers that have this happen to them, and there's definitely a general frustration about it. And then the other concern that we'd have, again, is just proper safety lifting techniques. Again, making sure when he's lifting the equipment into his truck that he was following the procedures. So if we were to break this down, first we have the injury occurring right after a vacation. So this can be challenging because, again, as I mentioned before, with the workers' comp board, we have, there's things that could happen coincidentally. So barring any evidence of an injury occurring prior to the alleged injury, it is presumed to be work-related. So again, if this person states that they were injured at work and then they went to a doctor and got that report that said it happened, it makes it very challenging for us to automatically deny it. We have to come up with evidence. And this is what's key, because a lot of times, when we're talking to members, there's some speculation, or that, you just have that general feeling on a claim that, you're concerned about, but we can't prove it. And that's the challenge, because we have to present to the Workers' Compensation Board actual evidence and case law that could go against what the claimant is alleging. Because if we were to deny a claim or controvert a claim without proper evidence, there's actually an opportunity that they can penalize PERMA, and the defense attorney for us for for false, I don't say false prosecution, but we just have to be careful of that, because if there's an intentional delay on our part or frivolous denial, that they can penalize us. So, but some of the tools that we can do though, is when they come back from vacation, what we usually do is we try to do a medical canvas, and this gives us an opportunity to see if there's possibly any other recent treatment, especially ER visits, leading up to the time of the accident. So also, if they are on vacation and you have to know where they were on vacation, that can help us too, because we can canvass that area, because usually medical canvassing is done around the immediate area of the employer and where the employee lives. But if you know they're away, and again, Facebook is a great way we find things out. You see pictures of them on vacation on Facebook, and letting us know that can help us, and we may use medical canvassing to see. And then also any observations of the claimant's activities leading up to the alleged injury. Because say that they claimed they broke their leg. We had one that said they severely dislocated their hip. They were at work for a half an hour and limping, the whole time before they allegedly fell. So that's evidence that we can use. We can get witness statements there and state that, the employee came in and they're already walking with a limp, or, and I asked them how they were doing, and they said their back was sore from the weekend moving a couch. These are all things that have actually happened, and we've gotten that information. And now in this case too, though, what we have is we do have a witnessed accident. So based on these facts, it is harder to challenge because somebody saw the claim that happened. So it sounds like, it would be a compensable claim. But one of these things that happened on this claim, though, that was interesting is shortly after it was filed, we got a tip for potential fraud, that John was actually hurt on vacation. And even more interesting was Eleanor, the witness, was actually the claimant's girlfriend. So based on this information, we delved deeper into it, and we got a medical canvas, and we had an ER report from 2 days prior saying that John injured his back at a party. So in this example, we were able to deny the claim, and then John decided not to pursue it further. So again, sometimes just one fact can change that or new information. Now, on this though, because you may be wondering, if this sounds like fraud, there's a couple of things. One, fraud can be very challenging to prove. Again, we need the evidence, and the evidence has to show that the claimant did something material and intentional to obtain benefits. In this case here, we cannot pursue fraud because John actually was never paid any benefits. We never paid any lost time. The employer didn't pay lost time, or did we pay any medical? So this was a good outcome because John withdrew his claim, or did not pursue further, I should say. And we consider that a win. Now, if John was out of work for 3 months and we find this out and he was paid, and we find out what the ER report, and if he misrepresented to his doctors or our consultant how he got injured, then we may have a case for fraud and try to pursue that with the Workers' Compensation Board. And if fraud is found, there's different levels of penalties. The Workers' Comp Board has authority to suspend future medical or future indemnity benefits, those lost time wages, and they also can suspend or look to have a credit for prior payments that were paid for indemnity benefits. The one thing, though, is the statute referred to as 114A does not allow for medical to be cut off on fraudulent claims. The legislature did not write it that way. So we only can impact the indemnity piece. So in this case here, it was a good result. We had, John no longer filed his claim. And if you're asking though, what could the member have done in this one? In this case, the member actually was aware that John and Eleanor were dating, but did not advise PERMA of that. So, us having this information is key. So, when you're talking about the claim with your case analyst or the patient advocate or the technical claim manager, provide as much information as possible. Sometimes it may not seem like a big deal, but you say something and that pieced together with another red flag we have may say, you know what, this claim has sounded like it was compensable, but now based on that, let's just look into it a little deeper. And I do want to mention too, today we're just focusing on claims that do have suspect or questionable compensability. or coverage under workers' comp. For the most part, most injuries we receive, the claimant really was injured, and we're there to, make sure they get the treatment and the lost time wage benefits they need, and to get them back to work. So I do want to say that, we are focusing on, the smaller percentage, but this is also the percentage, though, that, probably causes most people the most pain and angst from the employer or member view. So, like I said, it is important to share that information with us. And again, it may not always be enough for us to deny or controvert a claim, but it does help us in devising our case strategy. If we know there was a recent disciplinary action like a week before, or a schedule change they weren't happy with, all these things are things that we take into consideration, because sometimes they also have an impact on return to work. If there are upcoming layoffs or seasonal employment's about to end, these are all things that we take into consideration. And again, it may not be enough to deny a claim, but it does give us some perspective on the claim. So Kimberly, before I go to the third scenario, I just want to make sure, see if we have any questions.
Nope, we still have none.
All right, hopefully I'm not boring you all to death. Just so you know, normally I'm a very fast talker, so I'm trying to talk slow. So this is slow for me. If it's too fast, just let Kimberly know, and I will slow it down. So our next one is the mystery of the delayed claims. So this is really a collection of issues or topics that come up. And again, overall membership is great with reporting new claims. I think last year we averaged, as a whole for all of PERMA, all claims, the average was 6 days, but we had, I forgot the percentage that report the claim within 1 day, which is excellent. So again, most of you out there are doing a great job and, consistently reporting on time. Once in a while, a claim does come up that may be out of your control. They report it to you late, and we understand that. But there are times, though, that, we do get claims in late, and it really handcuffs some of the stuff we can do, but it also can open us up to other issues and concerns. So I just wanted to cover, 3 scenarios, for delayed claims. So these are all claims that, we did not get in at the time of either the calls or the questions or other issues. So the first case, we had Paul's doctor. We have doctor calling us up. They're looking for an authorization of the MRI. They need an emergent MRI because they're concerned that the injured worker may need surgery. Another scenario, and we'll go again, we'll dive into these like we did the other ones. We have another one with George's questionable slip and fall. If the claim got established because the employer reported it late, not the employee in this case. So we don't have a notice argument, and we can't argue that prejudice I spoke of earlier, that we weren't able to review and look at the construction site that the claimant allegedly got injured at, because at this point, by the time we got it, all the debris had been removed. And a third, and this is a real life example, we had to pay $611 in penalties to a volunteer firefighter who only missed 1 day and it was only due $53. But because of a late report to us, it was past the deadlines that we have established by the state to make timely payments. So for $53, it ended us costing over 10 times that in penalties for missing 1 day. So let's get into these a little bit more. So the impact. So again, in the first case, in Paul's case, that late reporting to us, it can cause a delay in treatment and benefits to the injured worker. And a lot of times you hear doctors say, "Oh, I can't treat him without a claim number," and even though that's not the law, the doctors want to make sure they get paid. But the quicker you can establish or send that claim to us, the quicker we can set it up and at least get a claim number and start our investigation. Also, many of our members are under contract with their employees that they have continuing wages, but there are some that don't. So if somebody goes out of work and they don't have either vacation or covered time off, then they may be out of work with no benefits being paid to them at all. And so one, is obviously it's the right thing to do, report soon so we can give them the treatment they need and benefits they're entitled to. But two, it's also, we discover that these claims and these claimants sometimes, they start off with a bad taste in their mouth now with dealing with their employer and feeling their employer may not care. And those are the ones that we find that we might be litigating more. We have delayed time off because they're in no hurry to come back. So, this is by consistently reporting claims timely, we can make sure they get the treatment they want, the benefits they may be entitled to, and hopefully, continue that goodwill and culture that you want for your employees. Now, in George's case, we had the delay in investigation. So we didn't get the claim in. We weren't able to investigate if we needed to further, and possible evidence is no longer available. Also, too, we have claims sometimes, especially in seasonal, like your summer, lifeguards, pool, and summer DPW workers. They're gone. We get the claim after the season is over, and it's hard to reach some of the coworkers that were working with them for evidence. So again, if we want a witness statement, it can be challenging to try to track these people down. So again, it's important to report as soon as you have the notice on these claims so that we can get our investigation going and gather whatever evidence we may need. And again, I talked about those fines and penalties. So here's the breakdown. So if we don't pay a claimant timely, there's a $300 penalty for late payment. General rules, we have to pay them within 18 days of their disability. So a little after 2 weeks, if we don't make a payment by 2.5 weeks from the date of disability, then that's $300 to the claimant. If we're more than 25 days late on that after we've had notice, there's an additional $300 to the claimant and 20%. So that 20%, if they were owed $800 a week, we missed those first 2 weeks. That's $1,600, and 20% of that, doing math in my head, $320, I think. So that would, in that case there, that'd be $920 in penalties due to a late payment. And then also there is the possibility of $100 in administrative penalties. That is $50 for the late reporting of a claim to the state, and then another $50 for late reporting of the payment being made to the state. Luckily, though, with our compliance scores in New York, we tend to, we do have very high scores, and we exceed the threshold for penalties in those administrative areas. So because we do that, they waive the administrative penalties. But if for some reason those scores dip, that could have been another $100 in penalties on these two claims. So just wanted to break down that. So what can you do as a member to report all claims as soon as possible? And again, I do want to praise our membership because in general, you guys are great on reporting claims and getting us that information as soon as possible. And we do understand too that once in a while, something does come up and it gets delayed or misplaced. It happens. We understand that, but I just want to make sure that we have good best practices in place. First, one of those being is making sure that your supervisors or managers, understand your proper procedures to report the injury to either you or PERMA directly. Some of our members allow, supervisors to report to PERMA directly and just give you a copy of you if you're the contact for the member. If you're not sure if you should report a claim, call us. Talk to your technical claims manager. Terry, Darlene, John, and Terry, Darlene, John, and Mary, are all available for you. Give them a call, and they can give you some advice on that. Let us make that call. Because what happens is a lot of times, we weren't sure if it was, so we didn't do anything, and then sometimes it's too late. Also, don't wait to report a claim if you have a policy of gathering signatures from the injured worker or having the completed internal paperwork. If you have enough information, send us in the initial claim, and we can always follow up and get that additional accident report from you. But what we don't want to do is delay that because, he only comes in once a week, and he was off last week, so now it's 2 weeks in, and you're just waiting on a signature. Send us the claim. We'll reach out to you on the claim with any questions or further information we may need. So, again, don't hold off on those. Just send them right into us. Another one, if, a lot of times, we have one person at the member that has to do all the filing and comp claims. I know it's, none of you, unfortunately, it's probably just your sole responsibility. And you have a lot to do, but, and there are actually times that you might get to take a vacation or, a mental health day. And if you're out, you should really try to have someone as a backup that can file claims for two reasons. One, we can get them in sooner to us, but two, we don't walk back, after vacation and have a desk full of forms that you have to file. And just as a reminder, there's 3 ways you can report claims to us. We have them online at perma.org. You can do email at compforms@neami.com, or you can fax the new reports to us as well. And just as a reminder, sometimes if there's a technical issue, with a fax or perma.org, use one of the alternative methods. And worst case scenario, if that's not working, give us a call, and we'll get the information that we need there. So before I go into the formulary, Kimberly, I just want to check if there's any questions on those scenarios about timely recording.
We do. Good news, we have one question. Does town take any part in medical canvassing?
I'm sorry, what was the first half of that question, Kimberly?
Does town take any part in medical canvassing?
Does the town, so I assume we talk about, does the member participate in that? Normally the medical canvassing is something we would do. We have a couple services that we can use for that. So, if there is a cost associated with it, so it's not something we necessarily do on every claim, but that's where in the discussion, if, you do have concerns or we have some of those red flags that, we can use that medical canvassing. Now, it does get harder and harder with the HIPAA and privacy laws. So, sometimes we have to wait until we can get a signed release before we can get that information. But it is a tool that we do have available. And even better, and so especially in some of our smaller towns and villages, if they went to that provider, let us know. Give us those details, and we can hunt that down. It makes a targeted approach is usually much more successful. So, and thank you for whoever asked that question. All right. I'll talk to underwriting, see if we can get you a discount. No, just kidding. We have none of that in claims. They're totally separate over there. All right. So now that we went through the scenarios, I just wanted to update everybody on the change that the Workers' Compensation Board is putting into place. This is based on 2017. The legislative budget had some reforms for workers' comp. One of those was that a prescription formulary had to be put in place. And the state already got one extension, but now it is due by the end of the year. So on December 5th, so that's this Thursday, the first part of the 2-part implementation for the drug formulary will be rolled out to workers' comp claimants. So a formulary basically is a list of approved medications, and this is relating it to the type of injury. So if they have a back injury, the formulary is going to have specific generic medications that they should be able to get. So part 1, just so you know, and that's what's coming in December 5th, deals solely with new prescriptions. So it does not impact any medications that your injured workers are currently on, unless they have a dosage level change. So if they drop the milligrams on that from 100 to 50, then that is considered a new prescription, and it would follow this procedure. And I'll go into what this means to you in a moment. So just so you know, the goal of the formulary, though, is multi-pointed. One, they want to help injured workers receive related medications quicker. Overall, I think we do a really good job trying to get what the claimants need, but there are other carriers and in the state that, there could be longer delays. So, the state is trying to make sure that all claimants, get what they need. A second part of this is tightening the oversight on opioids. The narcotic reduction that we've seen in workers' comp over the last couple of years has been dramatic. What's really helped on this is because it has been a national crisis. So, no one wants to be the one that's left behind on this. So the state has been very aggressive in supporting when we're trying to mitigate or wean claimants off of opioids when it's safe for them. And the third part of the formulary is to control costs for employers. There's actually some employers out there that either are self-insured or with carriers. They may not already have a formulary in place. PERMA has had a formulary in place for years. So we're not necessarily seeing this as probably a huge cost savings for PERMA. For us, but for others out there, it could be a big deal. The formulary does really push doctors to write scripts for generic medications when possible. And if they can't have the generic, they just have to support the reasons why. So what does this mean for you and your employees? So first, like I said, the Workers' Comp Board has created a formulary for approved drugs by injury type. So what the board is hoping to have happen is that the doctors would write scripts for drugs that are on the formulary or on the list. That's the simplest solution. That way prior authorization should not be needed, and that the injured worker can go right to the pharmacy and fill the script. So least amount of friction, quickest delivery of benefits, that they're entitled to. Now, if a drug is not on the formulary, the doctor has to do what is considered like a variance request before writing the script. So if they're going off formulary, and right now, remember for December 5th, this is only on new medications. The request, would need to support the need for the off formulary drug. So that either there's some criteria that they've tried other medications that haven't worked, there's a drug reaction, other concerns, and they have to support that. And then what they need to do is log on to the Workers' Compensation Board's portal and enter that request. Then the Workers' Compensation Board will forward us that request, and we have 96 hours to approve or deny. And just so you know, those 96 hours are calendar. They don't, business holidays don't matter. So, we have 96 hours from the time we receive it to approve or deny. And if we don't respond in the 96 hours, it's automatically approved for the injured worker. And just so you know, what it doesn't change is injured workers can still go to the same pharmacy they go to now, and we'll still be using our pharmacy benefit manager, Optum. They are the ones that handle our prescription medications, and so they will still manage that end of it for us there. And then just this week, some of your injured workers may have started to receive letters because this is to prepare them for the June 5th rollout for refill prescriptions. So anyone that's on a medication now that falls outside the formulary will receive a letter stating that as of June 5th, that medication is no longer on the formulary. So that doesn't mean in 6 months that they will stop getting that medication. But what this purpose of this is one, try to work with their doctor over the next 6 months to see if there's an alternative that's on the formulary, or two, give an opportunity for the doctor to support the need for an off-formulary medication. So, like I said, that kicks in this Thursday, December 5th. Nothing really changes on your end, but I just wanted to share that information with you in case you have employees that come to you with questions or concerns. And that's December 5th for new medications, and new medications also includes change in dosage, and then June 5th for all medications, including refills on that. So that is all I have for you, and I do want to give a sincere thank you for all of you for choosing PERMA. It really is a pleasure for us to work with our members. And claims is not always the most fun, but ours, the feedback I get from my staff all the time about how great it is to work with our PERMA membership, it really makes our day so much easier. So with that though, Kimberly, we can open up to any Q&A on that. And one thing I do want to stress is that if anyone has a specific question on a particular claim, that's probably something we can handle best offline. But if you have some general questions that, we can hit those because each case is different. But Kimberly, anything for me?
Yes, we do have one more question. So we had someone say we haven't had an employee attending Workers' Compensation Board hearings in years. They're wondering if we have to provide paid time off for those hearings or if they can make them use their fringe time or personal time. Also, time off for following up medical appointments.
Great question. And first, if I understood the first part, I'm glad to hear that you haven't had a claim in a long time for that member. Under workers' comp law, so let me stress there's two differences here. There's workers' comp law and then there's your collective bargaining agreement, because that may be different. Under workers' compensation law, the employer or a PERMA is not responsible for covering time to go to independent medical examinations, hearings, or medical treatment. Workers' comp only provides a benefit if the employee is disabled. So they have to be taken out of work, by a doctor for a period of time to receive benefits. Simply going to a hearing does not excuse or does not create a disability. So therefore, they wouldn't be covered under workers' comp. Now, depending on your collective bargaining agreement, though, you may have something in there that they can use sick time or time bank that doesn't get charged back to their personal time off or vacation time, but that's a case by case for each member on that. So I hope that helps clarify that question.
And I think that's all of them for us.
All right. Is there, I see a little thing flashing. Is that one more question or is that just the same one?
I think that's the same one. Let me double check for you guys. I think we're good.
All right. Well, thank you again, everybody. Again, my name is Rich Hayes. I'm the Director of Claims here for PERMA. So if you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or any of our staff. And thank you, Kimberly.
Thank you guys for coming and staying nice and warm.